Those guys are commenting, cage diving is bad. 100% of them haven't even been on a cage diving boat, so they've got no room to comment at the end of the day. They're commenting purely based on media reports, and that's where they're getting their thought factors from, and verbally expressing what other people have told them. They haven't actually gone on a boat and actually seen what it's about.
The controversy, I think, also comes from more of a misunderstanding of what cage diving actually entails, and this is perpetuated by documentaries where you'll have the shark feeding on the bait and thrashing on the bait line and bumping into the cage and so forth, and those are things that you want to avoid. Those kind of videos get put on YouTube, they get put in the media, they get put in documentaries, and that forms a very negative perception of the cage diving industry.
I was also against that whole chumming and putting baits in the water and all of that, just because I didn't actually know what was going on. And until I actually started working on the boat and actually experienced it myself, then I was able to say, well, actually we don't feed the sharks. There's no making the sharks coming to the boat. There was no put a drop of blood in the water and there's 5 sharks circling around the boat. We have to wait for the sharks. It's a lengthy process. It's basically, if the shark is there, he'll come to the boat, but if he's not there, he's not going to come near the boat.
I think it's probably a lot of the times people seeing is believing, in a way that if you tell them you're going to put a tuna head on the end of the bait and put it in the water and a 14-foot white shark's going to swim past it and bat an eyelid at it, they won't believe you until they see it for themselves. And that tuna head gets thrown out at 7 o'clock in the morning, and at 12:30 the same head gets plonked back on the boat and nothing's touched it, and it's been drifting there for 5 hours with 4, 5, 6, 7 sharks swimming around it. That's a little bit convincing to some people.
Wild chum is being used, and it was used at very moderate and very small amounts, but it's very regulated at Seal Island, and it's very, very minuscule. And it's really just to keep the shark around the boat, long enough for the tourists to actually kind of see it. But there's no feeding, there's no reward, and I think that's very important. People believe that these sharks are being fed, they're actually being rewarded for coming to the boat. That is not so.
Our main bait is a fish head, so it'll be a tuna head or a skipjack head or a snook head. We don't need to actively chum. As I mentioned before, the sharks are either there or they're not, so it's an attractant. It goes out in the water and the sharks will come and investigate it.
Basically, we put a snook in a bucket. They'll stand on the snook just to get a little bit of oil.
Welly, tell us what it is you're doing here.
Second?
Tell us what it is you're doing here with baits.
Oh, now this bait, I'm trying to bring the shark up. I'm gonna give you 5 minutes.
And then it's the Welly magic.
Yes, that is our Welly magic. Yes.
Gary, what are you doing over here?
Basically, we've got frozen tuna heads inside here. Kind of thawing it out now with the water, putting some buckets of water, pulling the buckets up, and just pouring it inside. Also, this just creates a bit of a chum slick.
So it's not for the sharks to eat, no?
Not for the sharks to eat. Just kind of getting a smell.
It's like walking past a bakery and you smell the fresh bread or the fresh croissants. It smells good, and you'll want to walk around the bakery. That's really it. It's a sensory perception for the shark to actually be interested in the bakery, in this case the boat.
I mean, Seal Island is a natural chum slick. I mean, you've got 60,000 Cape Fur seals on the island, and they're going to the lure on the island, and you got waves coming up, and so it's a natural chum slick.
What we need to recognize is how you interact with those sharks at the island. Not everybody is going to like or agree with. What we need to do is make sure that it's sustainable. And so the research to date has actually shown that at Seal Island in Cape Town, the sharks actively ignore the chum for a lot of times, and not all sharks respond to the chum. And overall, it seemed like there was not a positive conditioning happening with the sharks at Seal Island. And in fact, many of the animals stopped responding to the shark boats over time. And we documented many animals that predate on the seals that never visit the shark boats. One of the reasons we think we didn't see positive conditioning happening is that the sharks are not actively fed.
working with Rob, he's always been extremely strict on bait usage.
Some days they'll chase a seal decoy. You'll see it's all bitten and beaten up. The one around the boat, we make a lot of sound, especially on days when it's calm. Myself or some of the crew will make a banging noise, switch the engines on. Being a top predator in the area, they'll come and they're inquisitive. They'll come and look what's causing a noise, what this thing on the surface is. It comes down to the fact some sharks will stick around you, some won't.
And I would say 99% of people leaving the boat have a better understanding, also a better knowledge of actually what's going really around and how fantastic this creature is.
As long as best practices are implemented, the sharks are respected, the ecosystem is respected, and people are given an educational experience, I think that it can be a life-changing experience.